Everybody, I'm Elizabeth Illig, and we are back with How to Get an Analytics Job. I'm one of your co-hosts for the How to Get an Analytics Job channel and podcast. I wanted to give you guys a brief overview of today's podcast and let you know that it was recorded before we knew so much about the coronavirus pandemic. You will notice that I am practicing social distancing and working from home, so the video right now that I'm recording isn't as high quality as we typically have, and that's because we are in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic. The podcast that you're about to listen to talks about networking, and it does talk about networking in person. It talks about networking at events. And I wanted to let all of you know that we are not condoning that you go to a large event right now. This podcast was recorded in advance, and I do think it still has relevant content for when we all get through this coronavirus pandemic. So we wanted to go ahead and release it so that you had this information available to you. That is the big caveat with today's episode. I hope that you enjoy the content, and thank you so much for tuning in to How to Get an Analytics Job. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to How to Get an Analytics Job. I have with me today Lindsay Kramer, who is going to chat with us about networking as a job search strategy. And as a reminder, everybody, I am Elizabeth Illig, one of your co-hosts. And so we're excited to have Lindsay here to talk through how to network as an effective job search strategy. As a reminder, we are in our networking month, which means that we are spending the whole month right now talking about how to network, what platforms you can use like LinkedIn to do that, and how to network effectively. And Lindsay, you may remember, joined us actually last time to talk more about LinkedIn. So Lindsay, thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'd love to start with an introduction. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I serve as the Director of Corporate Relations at High Point University. And so I have a lot of fun with my job. I get to develop internship and job pipelines for our students. So I have a lot of different people I get to talk with all day. I talk to recruiters and different individuals around the country at different employers. And then I also get to work with our students in helping to make those connections. So it's a lot of fun. It keeps me on my toes every day.
Great. Sounds like a very fun job.
Yeah.
So let's start with a broad question. What is networking?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure everyone could give you different definitions and technical definitions of networking, but I see networking as really the relationships that you develop with people to grow your web of connections. If you think about either a spider web or even like a tree with different branches and different leaves, you're building that web or you're building that tree and kind of all the connections that you make with different individuals in your industry, your family, your friends. So it looks a little bit different for everyone, but you're essentially building that web of connections to help you in whatever way you want to use kind of your network. But that's kind of my general description of it, but I'm sure there's probably a really technical one too.
That sounds like a great description. And I love that Lindsay mentioned that it's a relationship building process.
Mm-hmm.
So you're constantly building relationships with others and maybe even being targeted about who you want to get to know and learn from in a professional capacity. So it's a good way to look at networking. What do you recommend that students and young professionals do to network? What would you say that they should be doing?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times when students hear networking, they think of one thing and only one thing, and that's going to like a happy hour and going up to random people at a bar and having to connect with them and all of a sudden make some sort of relationship happen, like on the spot, and it terrifies them. And I'll be honest, I hate doing that just as much as the next person. I think it's really ineffective, and it's not my favorite way to actually network. But what students can be doing to network is really building the relationships that they have. If you're in college, it's joining clubs and organizations. I think students just think of their network as people outside of the university and only people that they can work with for internships or jobs. But really building your network is actually building the web of people that you know. And so that could be making friends with people in a club or an organization. By virtue of that, getting to know, let's say their parents come for family weekend, actually getting to know those individuals. It's amazing how many people you will find in, let's say someone asks you, oh, do you know anyone can help with XYZ task? I bet by the time after 4 years of undergrad, if you really are involved on campus and engaging in a variety of different kind of clubs, organizations, leadership activities, internships. The network of people on the web that you know and that will connect you with other individuals can grow immensely. But it can also stay very small if you don't actually put yourself out there and get to know people. So it really is getting to know people. And I think students think that it has to be people that like aren't interested in the same thing that they are. It's just this very cold interaction. But the way networking, I think, if you're going to be productive with it, is finding things that you get excited about. And so joining a club or an organization or taking a class that really interests you, hopefully you're going to find some like-minded people, and that's going to start your web. And those people can introduce you to potentially people that you wouldn't have known before. And maybe you wouldn't meet if you didn't have that, because they're going to have a different network than you are. And those are going to start to really mingle. So if you're going to start with something small, it's joining things that interest you so that you can build your network to somewhere that actually interests you and is people that are kind of like you. But of course, no two people are going to be alike. So you're still going to have inherently differences with people that will help to grow your network. That's kind of the baby step number one I recommend to any student, is really getting involved. It's not just so that you can build your resume. It's so that you can build your network and really start to actually grow your kind of presence in the country of who you know, and internationally actually even.
Yes. So great point. I think certainly you can think about who could you build your network with now that you're in college, because those people, as I've talked on this podcast about before, those people are going to have some amazing careers. They're going to do some amazing things. So keep in touch with them, get to know them while you're on campus. And then if you're a young professional, like Lindsay mentioned, you can join clubs. I mean, you certainly can join clubs as a student, but as a young professional, you could join a club like a Tableau user group. John David used to be the host of a Tableau user group in Greensboro, and there's another one in the Raleigh area. So certainly there are ways that you can connect with folks, you can build relationships with folks who are interested in similar things that you are and who are in that analytics world. So Lindsay mentioned a great way to do that. I want to back us up though. Why should people network? Why should students and young professionals take the time to build these relationships with folks?
Yeah. So the kind of, I guess, non-professional response I would say is I think it's really good to have human interaction with people. Even if you're a super introvert, I would consider myself an introvert, you still need people in this world. There's 7 billion people in this world, and we are going to consistently rely on relationships with others, regardless of how much you like them or not. We still need to be interacting with others in this world, and it's how we get by. And so building a network of people that you can trust and rely on and hopefully enjoy interacting with on some level, I think that fulfills a basic human need as well. That part is really, really important. And I think if you're intentional about surrounding yourself with people that can help to build you up, I think life is a lot more exciting and fun, especially as a young professional when you're kind of trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? I'm trying to these different things. There's all these new things. Having that support system in that web is really important. On the professional end of the spectrum, it's really important to get to know people. It's about 80 to 90% of jobs are not ever posted. So that means that you need to rely significantly on your network if you are going to hear about those jobs and actually being able to be considered for those jobs, because so many jobs that are really high level and or newly created jobs or jobs that are just becoming available, they're never even posted. For example, the job that I have, I never actually even applied for it really. I was asked to apply for it essentially. And so that's because of the network that I had built in my kind of career here and in the community. Or say, for example, someone is going to be leaving their analytics job. It's an entry-level position or just past entry level. Well, they may never even post that job because you've been making those relationships and they're just going to say, you know what, Brian, I'm going to go ahead and I'd like to bring you in for this job. And that job never gets posted. Or even if it does get posted because HR technically had to post it, you were the person that they were going to hire all along. So that is, I mean, for your professional career, it's incredibly important because otherwise your chances of getting jobs that you want goes down to you're only seeing 10% of jobs that are posted, roughly 10 to 20% max. And then if you think about how many jobs you would apply to versus how many you get, since it's about for under 30, it turns into about a 1 to 60 ratio. So you probably want to start building that network so that your network of jobs all of a sudden expands greatly and you have a much bigger shot of actually getting those positions. Also, those people can help to serve as references for you. And so I know the first job when I started at High Point University, I got the job because of the network I built when I was in college. Since this is my alma mater, the person that hired me here called all the people that I worked for and all the people that I just even interacted with here. And that network really served as an opportunity for me to get this position now, which I've been able to grow my network and build upon. So professionally, there's obviously a great benefit to networking, but I think personally, it's equally important just as being a human on this planet.
Yes, I think those are great points. I mean, certainly, personally, we want to have a group of people who are supporting us and there for us. But on the professional end, Lindsay brings up a couple of things that we talked about in episode 10, which were the hidden job market. So certainly there are going to be jobs that are not posted or get posted, but they already have some folks in mind because of the value of networking. And you want to be doing that networking so that you're front of mind, you're top of mind for a referral. You can be somebody that the hiring manager is referred to. So that's a big reason why we network, is because some of these jobs are maybe not going to get posted, or if they are getting posted, they're still going to be filled with people that have networked or built relationships with others in that community. And so the hiring manager is maybe referred to this person. And that makes a ton of sense. Again, we talked about this in episode 10. Hiring managers are really busy. Recruiters are really busy. If they get a referral and they check out that person's credentials and say, this person looks legit, of course they're going to invite them for an interview. And of course they're going to look at that person on the top of their stack of 300 applications because it's easy to do so. So I think that the value in this is so, so great. And I'm glad that you've spoken to that, Lindsay. I also am curious, you talk with a lot of employers and you talk with them about what they're looking for and what they like when students reach out to them or try to build relationships with them. So what advice are they giving students and young professionals when it comes to networking?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's being confident in yourself and what you have done. So many students, they feel like their experience maybe doesn't necessarily equate to what an entry-level job should be. And so having confidence that you have put in the work and taking pride in the work that you have, and don't be afraid to actually express that in your networking, because a lot of these recruiters, they need you to tell them. You need to advocate for yourself. So when you're talking with people and you're building relationships, whether it's through LinkedIn, whether you're at a career fair or something of those natures, actually advocate for yourself and be prepared to kind of have a pitch of what you have to offer and what you can really bring to that organization. I always like to think of it as a new hire is to make the recruiter's life easy is to think about what is this person going to bring to my organization and what are they going to be able to do for me? It might sound a little cold, but that's at the end of the day what an organization is looking for. What are they going to do for us and how are they going to help to make us more successful? And so being prepared to actually talk about that is something that you want to practice, because that part can be a little scary to kind of brag about yourself and talk about what you've done without just saying, I'm good at talking to people. That's not really going to cut it. So you're good at talking to people. That's great. What have you done with that ability? Or what have you done with your ability to analyze numbers in a particular way? And really having confidence in that, because yes, you may be a college student, but you have something to offer that an industry professional may not have. You have access to the latest and greatest technology. You're working on really new and innovative things that employers really want to see. So start learning how to talk about that and advocate for yourself. The second thing that I would say is in terms of more of a little bit of a virtual reach out, employers want you to keep reaching out. I know some students feel like they're being really annoying if they keep reaching out to students. These recruiters and these employers are really, really busy. I get about 300 emails a day, and that's just the reality of what I'm doing. So I really try to respond to the majority of those emails within 24 hours, but it can be really hard. And so but if I have someone that keeps reaching back out to me, I'm probably going to give them more of a chance. It's always, you want to be professional and respectful and saying, I don't want to bother you, but I'm really interested in your organization. those are things to kind of remember. It goes a long way. They may not respond to the second or third time, but if they see that you kind of have the guts to keep reaching back out and you really are interested, you're more likely to respond. And that's taken from, I just moderated a panel from one of our career fairs with several Fortune 50 companies, and they all gave the same feedback. They may not respond on the first or second, but they may on the third or fourth, and they really do notice, okay, this kid's got really a lot of resiliency. If they're going to keep kind of basically not hearing anything and they're going to keep going for it and keep trying to kind of prove themselves. So don't forget that follow-up and that reach out is an integral part of networking. It's probably not going to happen on the first time, but if you put the effort into it, it really can be productive in the long run.
Yes, great points. I think people are worried about following up, scared to follow up. And I think that certainly everybody do that. Of course, be respectful, be professional, don't hound this person.
Yeah, don't hound them.
Absolutely, you can follow up and say that you remain interested in a role, or you still would like to grab coffee if you haven't heard from them. So certainly don't be afraid to do that. I think a lot of times people are afraid to follow up. The reality is it's usually not personal if they haven't responded. It's usually that they're very busy. So follow up and continue to express your interest in whatever it is you want, whether that's just an informational interview or that's you wanted to learn more about a specific position. What about turnoffs though, Lindsay? I mean, what are employers and recruiters saying that are turnoffs when it comes to networking?
Yes. So there's a fine line between being persistent and being annoying. So learning that fine line, and it might be that you reach out every 2 weeks. It's not that you're reaching out. If you haven't heard something in 2 to 3 days, please don't reach out to them. The 2 to 3 days is not, it might feel like an eternity in your world, but that's like a millisecond in their world. So recognizing that recruiting takes time. And while it may seem like it's taking forever in your world, because in semesters, you're breaking it up into 17 weeks, give or take. And so for you, everything is going to be condensed. But for an average position, it can take months to hire for something. And that's just kind of the reality of it. And kind of when you start to think of it from that perspective, a week or two really isn't that long in their world. So being persistent, but not being annoying. Another thing that employers really don't love is when candidates are incredibly cocky. It's just not a good.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. We just talked about this in episode 10.
Confidence is key. I want you to have confidence and I want you to be proud of what you've done, but please don't be cocky, because you are maybe 22 years old looking for a job. And while you can be one of the top interns in your class, you can be valedictorian of your university. You can have every accolade you want. You are still not the ultimate expert in your field. And you have a lot of learning to do. And so being able to be humble and to recognize that you want to learn and you want to grow is so critical. Because when I have students that are really cocky and think that they know more than me, my response, in all honesty, in my head at least, probably can't say this out loud, but is, well, if you figured it out, do you want to go ahead and do my job for me? That's great. I'm so happy to hear that you figured out what people are spending years of their lives trying to basically produce.
Right.
And so recognizing that you are just new at this and you're very green, but being excited to tackle something and learn, that's a big difference between, yep, I already know how to do all this. You probably don't know how to do all this, and that's okay. We want someone who isn't afraid to fail and is going to be excited to try new things. So being able to express that instead of just being like, I've done this and I've done this. Congratulations, you and every member of your graduating class has probably done something of the same caliber. So be the person that's willing to learn and be humble and do work that other people don't want to do. If that's something that you can do, it really helps to just make you a lot more attractive to an employer. Because if you're the annoying one that's going to tell you how great they are, oh man, for me at like career fairs, I'm like, please, do I have to talk to them? Like, I will put my blinders on and try to avoid that, because no one wants to talk to that. So that's probably the biggest thing, is don't be annoying and don't be cocky. That's right. If you avoid those things, you're doing pretty good.
Right. It's sort of this balancing act. You absolutely want to express some things that you've done, but you also
Exactly.
want to be a little bit teachable and show that you're eager to learn because, as Lindsay mentioned, particularly when we're talking about young professionals and college students, you still do have a lot of years ahead of you and a lot of years to learn about business analytics. And so at that stage, you probably aren't the subject expert in business analysis.
Exactly.
You probably aren't, and that's okay. I mean, you have years to become an expert.
Exactly.
So just approaching it being proud of your accomplishments, but not super braggy and cocky about them. It's sort of that balancing act between the two.
Absolutely.
Lindsay, we have a couple scenarios that I want to ask you about. And
Okay.
so I want to get your advice on these few scenarios.
Okay.
So first and foremost, what would you advise a student or a young professional to do when they're preparing for a career fair? And also when they're actually at the career fair, should they be doing?
Okay, I love this one because I have planned quite a few career fairs in my day and have been a large part of everything behind the scenes. So research is like one of the best things that you can do to get ready for a career expo. So actually research the companies that are going to be there and try to go in with a really open mind, because there are so many opportunities at so many different organizations that may not seem like your dream fit to start with. But if you do some research on companies, one, you're going to learn a lot of really cool information, and you're going to kind of come in with the knowledge and dedication that is going to set you apart from your peers, because most people aren't going to do that much research. But actually learning what employers have different kind of opportunities potentially available, just learning what they have to do. Anytime a student can come in doing research, that's something employers always notice when students have done their research. A lot of times your university will provide they'll provide a list of the employers that are going to be there. Some universities will even break down what they're hiring for. So do your research on those kind of things. But also, if a company isn't necessarily specifically recruiting for what you're looking for on that day, don't be afraid to go talk to them. And you still want to make a connection with that recruiter, because they may be able to put you in touch with someone else. So research is going to be really key. The other thing is practicing your elevator pitch and how to introduce yourself and talk about what you have done and what you're looking for. That's the other thing that it really sets great candidates apart from your kind of typical everyday student, is someone who has a confidence to talk about what they've done in a really humble way, but also what they're looking for. And even if you're not exactly sure what you're looking for, being able to own that and kind of tell a story that you're looking to figure that out, I think is equally valuable. So if you can have your research done and be prepared to talk about yourself, honestly, that's the biggest things employers look for when you're at a career fair, or in order to prepare for the career fair. When you're at the career fair, go up and actually talk to all of the organizations. So a lot of students will come in and say, okay, I'm going to talk with these 3 organizations. That's wonderful. But I would recommend trying to talk to more than just that, because what do you have to lose? You never know what's going to happen by talking to an employer that you've never heard of that's there. Maybe you didn't do your research on every single organization, and that's okay, but use that opportunity to start asking those employers questions about their organization, what they look for, even just if you're not interested in that organization, what advice do they have for you as a young professional? You never know what's going to come out of those circumstances. And it's really cool to see, after planning a lot of career expos, the things that come out of those really genuine relationships that are built from students that are there. They just really want to learn and network and connect. It leads to some really cool things, and probably some of the best outcomes we see come from students that are just excited to be there and taking in the whole atmosphere, instead of just, I'm going to these 3 companies, I'm going to give them my resume, and that's going to be that. Look at it as an educational day where you can learn so much about so many different organizations and how they even just interact with the world. And the more you can know and kind of build to your, I would say, just general awareness of the business world, it's only going to help you in the long run. And the people that can go in with that mindset, recruiters can spot them a mile away. And so if you can really own in on that, you'll be so successful at career fairs, and you'll have a lot more fun at them too.
Yeah, I think you're right. You will have more fun. And another thing that I sometimes tell students and young professionals and clients is, if you're really nervous, you have these top 3 employers or these top 5 employers that you want to talk to. We'll talk to some other employers to help you get your nerves out. and to learn from them and to practice your elevator pitch. And as Lindsay mentioned, you never know. Maybe one of those employers is somebody that could be of interest to you, or you get a little tidbit from that helps you professionally. But certainly you can use the opportunity to talk to other people to help you settle into the event and feel more comfortable in the event and talking about yourself. Should students bring resumes? Do you usually recommend that?
I love bringing resumes. We get called out anytime students don't bring resumes. So always bring resumes, bring lots of them. Please bring lots of them. And it may seem like a little detail, but I think having resumes printed on resume paper is always a great thing. It just, when you're actually getting physical resumes in, it just sets you apart a little bit more. If you have a business card, employers love business cards. That's kind of, I would say, equally as important as a resume now. They love students that are taking the initiative to kind of build their professional kind of brand and handing out business cards. So if that's something you're comfortable doing, I think it's great. There's so many easy options and affordable options for business cards, but at bare minimum, bring lots and lots and lots of copies of your resumes. Please bring more than you think you need. And also, this is a tip that I learned way back when I was in college. Please bring them in a folder or a pad folio. Do not just hold them so they get kind of crimpled in the middle with the little dent just from, even if you don't fold it, put them in a folder or put them in a pad folio so they stay nice and clean and neat, because no one wants to have like a crinkled up resume. It's just not attractive. So lots and lots of resumes. Yes. And make sure it's a good resume too. So work with your career office to make sure that your resume is the best it can be. Leading up to the event, don't work on it the day before if you can avoid it. Try and really put forth effort into your resume, because employers are spending a lot of money to come to these events. So they are trying to get their return on investment by getting as many resumes that are really great as they can. So you want to be one of those resumes. So just make sure you're doing everything you can in advance to prepare yourselves. Just think of it as a job interview. It's a mini interview on the spot. And a lot of employers are now moving even towards like day of hiring. That's becoming a thing. So be prepared for it.
Yeah. Okay, great. You heard it here, y'all. Prepare for these career fairs so that you are ready to talk to employers. Yes. I'm going to ask you about one other scenario, which is, what would you advise students to do if a contact suggests that they reach out to a potential employer about a job opportunity, or a potential contact about a job opportunity? So I've met with you, Lindsay. You're very impressed with me, and you say, Elizabeth, I really think you should reach out to Joe Smith because he has this great opportunity. What would you tell students to do in that scenario?
Yes, they're always so confused in that scenario. So do what they said, reach out to that person. And again, this is kind of one of those things, you don't want to overthink your communication to that person. If I tell you to reach out to Joe, here's his contact information, reach out to Joe and say, hi, my name is Elizabeth. Lindsay's suggested that I reach out to you, and state what they told you, because that's always really helpful for the person on the receiving end. In case that I don't get to talk to Joe, maybe as soon as you send that email. So to kind of just give him some background context. And then that's a great opportunity to just give a little brief bio about yourself. And so almost like similar to something that you might have on your LinkedIn summary. So nothing too long. And just state what you're looking for potentially. So if you were talking to me about a potential job, I always think it's helpful to include that context, because I like getting context from someone so that I can kind of know as much as I can before I'm going to talk to you. Just giving a little bit about yourself, any history that you have with me, and why that I may have suggested you reach out to Joe, and how I basically said Joe might be helpful for you. Keep it simple. I think it's great to attach your resume and provide the best ways to contact you. And something that I think is really important, this is a little bit more sales oriented, but it's something that I learned when I was a recruiter, but it does help to produce a lot better results for you, but kind of it's the ABC. So always be closing. So if you want to speak to Joe, tell Joe when you're available to speak. Say, I will be home for spring break the week of March 5th through the 10th, and would love to speak with you then. I'd be happy to meet you for coffee in New York or wherever it is. Provide concrete times that you would like to actually speak with Joe. Joe may not be able to actually meet then or speak then, but then Joe is more likely to return with, I'd be happy to speak with you at this time. I'm not available then, but let's meet this time. So making it easy for them to proceed to the next step. Otherwise, it's just kind of this ambiguous, like, I was told to reach out to you. This is what I want from you, but I don't really know what we're supposed to do next. So provide the way so that we can take those next steps, so that you know what your takeaway is from that email. And Joe, it's like, okay, this is my follow-up with you. That's probably my biggest recommendation, is just make sure that you have those concrete details. Otherwise, it's just kind of an ambiguous, like, I'd like to speak with you. That'd be great. But it doesn't really tell me what the next steps are. You want to know what your next steps are and what your request was for those next steps.
Absolutely. Yes. I think those are excellent points. So let's round out today with follow-up. I think a lot of people forget to follow up or worry about following up. I don't know. There's a lot of anxiety around following up. A little scary. Yes. But what's the best way to follow up after a meeting with a colleague or potential employer?
Yeah. So let's say if you're going to Career Expo, you get a bunch of business cards. So what I like to do is take all of those business cards, and I even do that now in my job, is I catalog all the business cards that I met, and then I go through, and so it might be a connection on, I think there's kind of three things that I would personally do. If I was going through the Career Expo game, this is what I would do. Connect on LinkedIn to those people, send them an email if you have their email address, from which you should if you're getting a business card. Send them an email thanking them, saying you love speaking with them, would love to learn next steps. Make sure it's related to the conversation you had that day at the Career Expo. So if you need to take notes on that, on what you talked about, don't just say, I would love to learn next steps on this job. Actually relate it to the conversation that you had with that person so that they can better identify who you are. And then handwritten thank you note. Get them out in the mail the next day. Do not wait more than 3 days. After 3 days, you're past the window, but send out. So basically have thank you cards before you even go to a career fair. And after career fairs, just keep thank you notes kind of on hand so that you can get those cards out immediately. But make sure you're doing the electronic follow-up as well, because your peers are going to get that electronic follow-up and you don't want to be late to that game. But most people aren't going to do the paper follow-up. So they'll probably get that in 5 business days or so, depending on where they are. So you'll have that initial follow-up thank you, which you want to do within 24 hours. I like to do it that night or the morning immediately after. But then you'll be back into kind of their mindset if you send that handwritten thank you note. That'll kind of pop them back and yourself back into their mind in a couple of days. It'll really show that you went the extra mile, and people are always impressed with a handwritten thank you note. So those 3 things, you really can't go wrong. That's as long as you can really commit to doing those. I know it sounds like really easy, but most people don't do it. So if you can actually master those 3 things, that's something that's going to say, I don't know if there's an actual study, but I would assume that it probably leads to a much higher success rate in getting internships or jobs.
Right. And we talked about this last episode too. The initial follow-up is really important. The thank you note, the discussion or the recap of what you talked about. It doesn't have to be long, a sentence or 2. But then the long-term follow-up. So the follow-up for a month later or a couple months later to stay on their radar. And as Lindsay mentioned in the past episode, if y'all want to check out that episode, you can do that on LinkedIn by liking things, by commenting on things, or you can send them a nice email about a career update or something that you want advice on, a resource that you would like their opinion on, something of that nature. So I think there's the initial follow-up, which is super important within 24 hours, that thank you email. Or if they suggested you apply, make sure that you're applying to whatever it is pretty quickly. And then there's the longer term follow-up. So I think, Lindsay, that wraps up our episode. Thank you so much for chatting with us about networking. I know that you're an expert and you are somebody that we were really excited to have on. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Networking is fun. It doesn't have to be scary by any means. It's just talking to people. So
love it. You heard it here. It doesn't have to be scary. It's just talking to people, just building relationships with people.
Exactly.
So, thanks everybody for tuning in to How to Get an Analytics Job. And we will be back next week with more content.